All right, it says we're recording. Hopefully this is recording. All right, so we're going to start on chapter 3, 3.1. By now, you all should have the book. Is there anyone who does not have the book? I guess I should have asked that before, but well, actually, this is good. Then I can remember. Who does not have the book? Okay, good. I don't want to post any more homework. In fact, I have to tell you something funny. My 11-year-old son, he goes, because he saw me copying the pages out of the book, and he goes, "Dad, you're not supposed to do that. That's illegal." I'm like, well, I gotta help my class somehow. All right, so here we go. 3.1. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, fundamental trig identities. I'll make this as big as I can. Maybe I'll pop that up a little bit. Okay. So the reciprocal identities you should already know. 1 over the cosecant is the sine. The cosine's 1 over the secant. Tangent's 1 over the cotangent. Your ratio identities, you should already know these. Tangent is sine over cosine. Cotangent is cosine over sine. Your Pythagorean identities, you should already know that sine squared of x plus the cosine squared of x equals 1. This one you may or may not remember. Tangent squared of x plus 1 equals the secant squared of x. 1 plus the cotangent squared of x equals the cosecant squared of x. We may ask you to prove some of these too, by the way. But remember, oh, in fact, I wonder on the test, remember, these x's have to be the same. If you're doing a 45-degree angle here and a 60-degree angles there, the x's are not the same. And I do wonder if on the test some of you said that, and that's why you said 1, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the x's, the angles have to be the same for this to be the same, be equal to 1. Now the odd and even identities. So this is interesting. So the sine of negative x equals the negative sine of x. The cosine of negative x equals the cosine of x. Okay, so those are your odd and even identities. Your tangent of negative x equals the negative tangent of x. Your cotangent of negative x equals the negative cotangent of x. The secant of negative x equals the secant of x, and the cosecant of negative x equals the negative cosecant of x. So basically, the top, more than half of the table, you should know. The bottom half, this might be new to you, but these you will want to commit to memory, because we're going to be verifying trig identities. So this, I don't know, today's quiz or tomorrow's quiz is going to be very hard to write. I don't know how I'm going to do this one, because this is really a lot of show your work. Now I think, is somebody sending me a message here? Oh, Ivan's back, had some internet problems. Welcome back, Ivan. We were scared you were jetting on us. All right.
No, thank you.
Okay, so guidelines. So these are some guidelines, and we will verify this identity down here in a minute. So guidelines for verifying trig identities. If one side is more complex, try to simplify that side first. We're going to verify this one in a minute. This side is definitely more complex, so this is the side you should work on. Okay? Another tip, and you won't use all 7 of these tips, but you should know these. So add fractions or square a binomial. Factoring may be useful. Rule number 3, use identities. So these identities that we've got here must be committed to memory. Okay. These are going to, in fact, these are going to be really super useful. Number 4, rewrite one side with online signs or cosines if possible. So especially like a tangent, if you can write that in sines and cosines, a lot of times that'll be helpful. Rewrite one side in terms of a single trig function. That's another option to do. 6, multiply both the numerator and denominator of a fraction by the same factor or a conjugate. Sometimes, do you guys remember what a conjugate is? Who remembers what a conjugate is? Anyone? Okay, well, we'll do one that we'll have to remember that later. So keep your goal in mind. If it involves sums or products, etc., it may help you to verify the identity. Okay, so these are 7 tips to do this one. And so what I'm going to do, oops, I don't want to give away the answer yet. All I wanted to do was copy this. Okay. Now, really hope that we can memorize that thing. So I'm going to open up Excel here for a minute. So we're going to verify.
I cut off. I'm sorry. What was the conjugate? Because I don't remember. I apologize.
Well, you're not the only one. I don't think anybody remembered. Does anybody remember what a conjugate is?
My internet keeps going on and off. Sorry.
Okay. We'll do an example and we'll explain what a conjugate is. Okay. So we need to verify. So basically, you can think of these as all proofs. Okay. That's another reason why people aren't going to like them. So we know. So we need to verify that this is true. So, oh, I hate this. Just a sec, I gotta fix my keyboard. I don't know why this scroll lock goes on because I don't have a scroll lock button on my keyboard and it turns on all the time. Okay, so we're just gonna rewrite the sign of x. Cotangent of x. Who remembers what the cotangent of x is?
Cosine over sine?
That's correct. Cosine of x over the sine of x, okay? And who remembers what the secant is? What's another way to write the secant of x?
1 over the cosine of x.
Over the cosine of x, okay? So these sines will cancel, these cosines will cancel, and you're gonna get 1 equals 1. Boom. Okay, does that make sense? So we've just verified that the sine of x times the cotangent of x times the secant of x equals 1. Okay, so that's probably one of the easiest little proofs you're going to have to do. Okay, so yeah, we've just rewritten that. Okay, let's do this one here. All right, so we're going to verify this one. Verify 1 minus 2 sine squared of x equals 2 cosine squared of x minus 1. Okay, so maybe I should. I'm going to copy these guidelines of them here. Except for you can't see them over there. Maybe I'll put them over here. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I wrote this one wrong. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. All right. So let's start with, okay, so it says start with one side that's more complex. I'm going to start with the right side this time. Okay. Now, how can I rewrite the cosine squared of x? Anybody remember any identities?
Could you, is it 1 minus the
Maybe I
sine
will.
squared?
I will look at this. Okay. Just give you any ideas.
1 minus sine squared of x.
Yeah, we can use one of the Pythagorean identities right here. The cosine squared equals 1 minus the sine squared of x. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 times 1 minus the cosine squared of x minus 1. Okay? Now I'm going to distribute that 2, and this is going to give me 2 minus 2 cosine squared of x minus 1. I guess I don't.
Is that supposed to be?
Do you mean sine?
Is it supposed to be the sine of sine squared of x, not cosine?
Yes, you're right. Sorry, I meant to put sine squared. Okay. Now, okay. 2 minus 1 is just 1, right? So this now becomes 1 minus 2 sine squared of x. And that's what I have over here on the left side. 1 minus 2 sine squared of x equals. Okay. So I just verified that as well. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, got a head nod from Texas. That was good. All right, let's try another one here. Okay, so whoops. Here we're going to verify this. We're going to verify cosecant squared of x minus cosine squared cosecant squared of x equals 1. Now, I've done a couple of these, so who do I want to pick on? Let's see who's here. I'm feeling like Texas. It was good to see you back on camera and your headphone and all in one thing here. This is nice. So Texas, do you have any ideas on how you would verify this identity?
Let's see. Oh goodness. Give me one moment. Okay. So cosecant. Let's see, cosine squared. And the cosine squared be equal to the sine squared of x?
Not exactly. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint here. Let's see here.
Okay.
Item number 2, factoring may be useful. That's your hint.
Oh. Okay. So you got the cosecant squared of x let's see, times the negative cosine squared of x equals 1.
Okay, if I factor, okay, so let's be sure you were factoring correctly. So
Right.
remember, I'm factoring a cosecant squared out of this first cosecant squared. What's left?
See, if you're factoring, you'd bring both the cosecant squared of x out of
Yeah, I'm bringing the cosecant squared out of both terms. Okay.
right out of both
Now,
terms.
if I pull a cosecant squared out of the first term, what's left?
Just be 1 technically.
One. Now, that's good because I didn't hear you say that the first time. Gotta
Oh,
have
yeah,
the 1
sorry.
there. Yeah.
Oh,
1 minus what?
cosine squared of x.
Cosine squared of x. Okay. And I'm going to ignore the 1 for now. Okay. Now,
You're at one side with all my. Oh goodness, text is too small. One side is
text
more.
is too small. You want me to make it bigger? How's that?
Works. That works. Rewrite one side with all my sines or cosines if possible. One
That's a
side.
very useful next thing here.
Okay. Sines or cosines. So the cosecant would be 1 over the sine,
Sine squared.
or sine squared. Yeah. And then that, let's see, 1 minus cosine squared of x would be the same as 1 minus the sine squared of x.
Okay, let's look closer at our identity here. You're on the right track, but you're not using it properly. Okay,
Oh.
we've got our fundamental trig identities. Sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1.
Oh, Pythagorean identities. Gotcha.
Yeah, we got a Pythagorean. So I've got 1 minus the cosine squared. So if I subtract cosine squared on both sides, what do I have left?
Sine squared of x equals the
Of x.
negative cosine squared of x plus 1.
Sine squared of x. So I'm replacing the 1 minus cosine squared with just the sine squared.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Because that cancels out the 1.
These sine squareds cancel, and I'm left with
1.
1 equals 1.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
We seem to be flying through this, and I know this is hard. I'm not going to cover another section here. In fact, we may repeat these just to make sure you guys know what you're doing. Okay, so let's do this one. Oh, this is a good one. In fact, I'm going to even leave the hint here. Okay, we're going to do another one here. Should I copy? Here, we're going to do this one here. I want to make sure you guys can do all of these. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. To make that big. Okay. So we're trying to verify. Almost all of these are going to be verify. I do not know how we're going to do a quiz tomorrow. It's going to take me extra time to write this quiz. We need to verify this thing. Sine of x over 1 plus the cosine of x equals 1 minus the cosine of x over the sine of x. Okay? So here's my hint. My hint is to multiply the left side by the conjugate. So, Tate, you're here today. Where's Tate? Okay. Do you remember what the conjugate is?
Nope, no clue.
Extra credit to anybody who can answer that question. What is a conjugate?
Well, the conjugate
Cameron
would be,
Robert knows. Oh, sorry. Who yelled out?
would it be 1 minus cosine of x?
Oh, who was that?
Brody Hardy.
Brody. Brody's not on camera. No wonder. That would be correct. Okay. So can you give me a good definition of a conjugate? Because you know what it is, you just don't know how to describe it.
I guess it just is the opposite of the denominator.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to copy this again. Okay, so essentially what we're going to do is the denominator, it's the same as this, except for the middle sign is going to be the opposite sign. So 1 minus the cosine of x, okay, times, okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on top, 1 minus the cosine of x, okay? So we're going to multiply the left side by the conjugate. So a conjugate, if you have an add, it's going to be a subtract. If you have a subtract, it's going to be an add, okay? So when we multiply the two denominators together, what are we going to get?
Is this up for anyone or just one person?
I'll let it go to anyone at this point.
Okay. So on the numerator, it would be the sine of x times 1 minus the cosine of x. And then on the bottom, it
You
would,
do it this way. Sine of x times 1 minus the cosine of x.
right.
Okay.
And then on the denominator, it would be 1 minus the cosine squared of x.
Cosine squared of x. Okay. All right, well done. Okay, so this is our fraction here. All right, so now what can we do at this point? We're going to go back to Tate. You got any ideas? We started on you, and then Brody, thank you, Brody, remembered what a conjugate was. So now that Brody got you this far, what would you do next?
Could we do the same thing with the right side, or is that just going to
So
make a bigger mess?
typically, yeah, we could, but typically what you want to do is you'll want to leave one side alone. And then
Okay.
we're trying to make in this case, the left side look like the right side. So I'm going to ignore the right side for now.
So
trying to
a
make the left
denominator
look
looks like, if we take, what is it, the identity, sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1.
right.
If we subtract cosine from each side, 1 minus the cosine squared of x is equal to sine. So we can rewrite it as sine of x times 1 minus the cosine of x all over sine, and then the sine's, oh wait, but then it's sine squared of x on the denominator instead of just sine. So we can't cancel them out yet.
Well, we can cancel one sign, right?
Right.
So this sign on the top is going to go away, and we're going to be left with 1 minus the cosine of x, right? And we still have
just
one
sine.
sign on the bottom, right?
And then that's equal to the
That's
right
what we
side.
started with. Okay.
Cool.
So when you're writing this, I know I'm using Excel, but here's what I would say: equals 1 minus the cosine of x over the sine of x. And of course, we'll make this look like a fraction. Boom, boom. Okay. So we have now verified. We've turned the left side into the right side, essentially.
I have a quick
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
So, I guess when I struggle with, how come we don't have to do the same multiplication on the other side? Because I always thought you had to alter the same, like do the same thing onto both sides.
Okay, so when you're adding or subtracting, that's true. But remember, 1 minus the cosine of x times 1 minus the cosine divided by 1 minus the cosine of x. I'm just multiplying by 1, so I haven't changed anything.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm just multiplying the left side by 1, so I haven't really changed anything. Now you could multiply this by 1, but it would just make it harder.
I have a question.
Okay.
What's the application of this? Like, how would we use this?
Because it's going to
in
show
like
that you
a-
can do a mathematical proof and trust me, you're going to use a lot of mathematical proofs in calculus. So this is a skill to get you up to speed with calculus.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and these are relatively simple. They're going to get harder. So, all right. Okay, let's see what else. Do I have any more or am I running out? We might do these over because even though this is good, we're going to verify this identity here. This is the next one we're going to verify. In fact, I may have you guys, even though, whoa. That's what I thought. Equals the tangent of x. Okay, so we're going to verify this one. Okay. I do not know how I'm going to make a quiz today. This is going to be terrible. Okay. All right. So, do we have any volunteers that want to tackle this one?
I think I have an idea.
Okay. Who's that?
I can go on camera.
Is this Brody?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome. Yeah. You get more points if you're on camera, you know?
Yeah. So
Except for I haven't updated my stuff. If we get out of class early, I'm going to update attendance. Okay.
So with the 1 plus cosine of x, could that be equal to sine of x?
No,
No.
because
Okay.
it's not squared.
Oh, right, because it has to be squared. Then no, I don't know.
Okay.
Can't tangent be changed?
Tangent could be changed, but I don't, let me think. I don't think, that's not how I would do this, I don't think.
Okay.
Do you do the same thing, the conjugate, or?
Conjugate, that seems like a good idea. Okay. Here, let me move this over. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so the conjugate would be what?
It'd be 1 minus cosine x.
Okay, so we're going to multiply things. And so on the bottom, we're going to get what?
So 1 minus cosine squared of x, which then would be equal to sine squared of x.
Okay, we'll do that in just a minute. And so then,
Okay.
okay, so on the top, I've got the sine of x plus the tangent of x, whoops, plus the tangent of x multiplied by 1 minus the cosine of x. I have to put my parenthesis at the beginning. Okay, so on the bottom, you said you're going to get the sine squared of x.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you want to do at the top?
Would we want to multiply those together, or do we want to just cancel out the signs?
We can't cancel out the signs because the plus sign is in the way. If it was multiplied, then we could cancel the signs.
Gotcha. So let's see. So then we just distribute. Is that right? Sine.
So yeah, we need to FOIL out the numerator.
Okay. So that would be, let's see, hold on.
So sine of x times 1 is
Sine of x.
sine of x. Sine of x times negative cosine of x is sine of x cosine of x. Tangent of x times 1 is
Tangent of x.
tangent of x. And tangent of x times negative cosine of x is negative tangent of x cosine of x. Okay. That just got really complicated, didn't it?
Really big, yeah. Would we want to change tangent of x into a fraction?
Change what?
Tangent of x, wouldn't that be sine of x over cosine of x?
Yeah. So let's rewrite this. So sine of x minus sine of x cosine of x plus tangent. You said we're going to write tangent as.
Sine of x over cosine of x.
I'm going to do this way. This is the sine of x over the cosine of x. Okay. And then we're going to subtract.
So,
Do the same thing again here.
yeah.
So we've got sine of x over cosine of x times the cosine of x, right?
Would that cancel out then, the cosine of x?
So these two cosines will cancel, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, let's see.
Okay.
Should,
So we've still got the sine squared of x on the bottom. I'm going to ignore that for now, but let's not
Yeah.
forget about it. Okay, so I got sine of x minus sine of x cosine of x plus, oh, maybe I'll leave this here, sine of x over the cosine of x. And then I've got minus the sine of x. Oops.
Okay, so
the
that's
sine of x. Okay.
the sine of x.
So now these two signs cancel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
now I've got sine of x cosine of x plus sine of x over cosine of x.
Isn't the sine of x cosine of x supposed to be negative at the beginning?
It is. Thank you.
Wait, I have a question. Why do those two sine of x
Okay,
cancel each other out?
What'd you say?
So why do the two sine of x cancel each other out?
So this sine of x, this first one, minus that sine of x, that's going to be 0.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So now we've
So
just got this middle thing here.
Would we want to bring back the sine squared of x?
Yeah, now we still got our sine squared of x. We've been ignoring that on the up to now. Sine squared of x. This is in our denominator. Okay.
And then that would cancel.
Okay, so here, let me try it this way. I'm going to try to draw my fraction this way. Okay. Now what?
So would that cancel out the negative sine of x? So just leave a negative cosine.
So I think what I'm hearing, let me make sure I hear this right. So in the numerator, we've got a sine in both numerators here, right? So we can pull out a sine of x, right? And I'm left with a negative cosine of x plus 1 over the cosine of x. And I'll close my parenthesis there on the top. And then I have the sine squared of x on the bottom, right?
Or would that just be sine of x?
Okay, so this sine and that sine will now cancel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm going to put this here. Okay, so now, so this sine and one of those signs will go away. So I've got the negative cosine of x. So I've got this, I'm just going to copy this. And now I've got a sine of x, and a cosine of x on the bottom, right?
Why is the sine of x and the cosine of x on the bottom?
Okay, so remember when I, this is probably the easier way to do this. Remember, this is a fraction here.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we divide a fraction by a fraction, it's easier to multiply by 1 over the sine squared of x. Okay, so this sign will cancel one of those, but I still have one left. So that's where that is.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Then can the cosines cancel each other out then?
No. Why not?
Oh, because they're addition.
Because there's a plus sign right there.
Yeah. Shoot. Okay. And all of that is over sine of x, or is the sine of x gone?
This whole thing is a fraction here.
Okay, so could you make the cosine over sine of x into tangent? Or cotangent?
No, because you can't split up that plus sign. We got to do something with that. That plus sign's mecking up everything, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea, sorry.
We're getting close.
Wouldn't you use the Pythagorean identity for that?
Well, remember, let's look at the Pythagorean identities for a second.
The squares for those.
Remember, all the Pythagorean identities are squared.
Oh,
Do we need another conjugate?
That's what I was thinking. Okay. So maybe if we multiply by a conjugate, what do we got? So what would be the so maybe I should rewrite this one instead of negative cosine. We could write this as 1 minus the cosine of x. And then it would be a lot simpler. Okay. So what would be the conjugate?
1 plus the cosine of x.
1 plus the cosine. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Oops. Copy paste. Okay. So now on the top, what have I got? I've got 1 minus the cosine squared. On the bottom, I've got the sine of x, cosine of x, and then I've got 1 plus the cosine of x. Okay, now what's 1 minus the cosine squared of x?
Sine squared of x.
Say it again.
Sine squared of x.
Sine squared of x. Okay, so I've got sine squared of x on the top. And basically I've got the same thing on the bottom.
Okay, so now you can get rid of one of the signs on the top and the sign on the bottom.
Perfect.
So those would cancel out.
So I've got the sine of x on the top. The sine goes, so now I've got cosine of x times 1 plus the cosine of x.
And then would you FOIL that cosine to 1 and then the cosine of x?
So sine of x over the cosine of x is the tangent of x, right? Tangent of x. But I still got the darn tangent of x over 1. Well, it seems like we missed something here because we're so close. Look at that. We've got the, so because we're supposed to set it equal to the tangent. We've got the tangent, but this is in the way. Did we make a mistake? Seems like we're on the right track. Here, let me check here. Okay, I guess I took you guys on the wrong track there. We were so close, though. This is how we should have done it. We're so close because we've got the tangent of x. That was exciting there. Okay. So we should have gotten the common denominator on the top. Or let's do this again. I'm going to copy this. We're going to go to a new page. So we need to verify that that equals tangent of x, okay? This is, by the way, even though we're so close here, but this is very common to do is you're like, oh, I'm so close. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to write this as the sine of x plus we can write the tangent as sine of x over the cosine of x. And then I've still got 1 plus the cosine of x on the bottom. Okay? And then this is my fraction. Okay? So now let's get a common denominator on the top. So that's going to be sine of x cosine of x over the cosine of x. And then I'm going to have plus the sine. And then I'm going to have the whole thing over 1 plus the cosine of x. Okay? Is everybody following me to here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we can, let me make sure I'm doing this right. I don't want to steer you guys wrong. Yes. Okay, we're on the right track. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do. We're going to flip this denominator. Remember, this is over 1, right? So we've got 2 fractions here. So I'm going to flip the denominator, and I'm going to multiply it over here. So this won't be here anymore. So this is going to be 1 over 1 plus the cosine of x. Okay? And now we're going to, so the numerator is going to stay the same, because that times 1 is still the numerator, right? The denominator is going to be cosine of x plus the cosine squared of x. Okay? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I should have left that alone. You know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna leave this copy as cosine of x times 1 plus the cosine of x. Okay. So I'm not gonna multiply those together. Okay. Now here's where the factoring is gonna come out. Okay. So I'm going to now factor sine of x out of the top. Sine of x out of the top. I'm left with 1 plus the cosine of x. I didn't type that right. Cosine of x. Okay. So I've rewritten this as this. Are you with me?
Yep.
Okay. Now on the bottom, I've got the cosine of x times 1 plus the cosine of x. What do you notice now?
1 plus cosine of x would cancel.
Cancel.
And then we'd be left with sine of x over cosine of x, which would be the
Sine of
tangent of
x
x.
over the cosine of x equals the tangent of x. Okay? Now, here's what I just want you to know. Sometimes we go down these rabbit holes and we get really close. And you will do this on your homework. You'll be like, oh, I'm so close. And then you'll say, well, let me try a different method. Because remember what we did here, we tried multiplying by the conjugate, which was a really good idea. But it didn't help on this case. And in this case, it was better to rewrite the tangent as a sine over the cosine. And so, how do you know whether to multiply by the conjugate or not? I hate to say it, but some of it is trial and error. So, it was still a good little effort here. Does that make sense?
I have a quick question. So right before the last step, we did multiplied by the reciprocal of the denominator, which was 1 over 1 plus cosine x. And then you went up to the top part and said sine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. How did you get that in the numerator?
Okay, so let's go back to this step here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's just go, we're going to repeat the whole problem. Okay, so we rewrote the tangent of x as sine over cosine. Then we got a common denominator on the top, which was cosine of x. So that gives us this, right? We still got our denominator here, which is 1 plus the cosine of x. Okay, so that's still in the denominator. When I have a fraction divided by a fraction, I can multiply by the reciprocal. So now this is not here anymore.
Yeah.
Because I've multiplied it by the reciprocal 1 over the cosine of x. So now this is now gone. And now I've got cosine times 1 plus the cosine of x here. And then I just rewrote this.
So
does that make sense?
Rewriting that into sine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. How'd you get that though? That's my question.
Oh, so I've got a sign that's common to both of these. So I'm going to pull the sign out. So if I pull the sign out of here, I'm left with a cosine of x.
Yeah.
And if I pull a sign out of here, I'm left with a 1. So in fact, well, maybe I'll change this back. This is the cosine of x plus 1, essentially. Does that make more sense? These are still, the order doesn't matter on this. Cosine of x plus 1 divided by 1 plus the cosine of x. Those still can cancel.
That's still right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. This is gonna be hard homework, and I don't know how I'm gonna make a quiz out of this, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay. I think that was my last one. But what I would like to do, because I showed you guys how to do these, is I would like to have a volunteer, especially if you're struggling with this a little bit. You've seen me do, so this is the first one I did before I asked anybody to help me. Can you guys tell me what to do to verify this identity? This is probably one of the easier ones. So let's pick on, boy, have we lost a lot of people? Oh, maybe not. Nicole, are you on camera? You are on camera. You're shaking your head. Would you like to do this one?
Sure.
Sure. Oh, I thought you were going to say no.
I want to, but sure.
Okay. We want you to do well. You want to ace the test.
I do.
So how would you verify this one? Theoretically, you've seen it once, and it theoretically should be easy, but maybe not. We'll see.
So change the cotangent to cosine of x over sine of x.
Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite sine of x. Okay. Changing the cotangent to cosine of x over the sine of x.
And then change secant to 1 over cosine of x.
1 over cosine of x.
And then you're going to cancel. So the cosines both
Cosines
cancel.
cancel.
Instead of the sines.
Sines cancel.
So that'd be 1
I
equals
get
1.
1 equals 1. Bang. Okay. So that was a nice one. You'll be like, put that one on the quiz tomorrow and I'll be okay, right?
Yeah, do that one.
Okay. How about this one? Let's make sure we can do this one. We're going to verify this one. Okay. Nicole's done her part. So whose turn is it now? Mason.
Yep.
So Mason, take it away.
Alrighty. So we'd have, let's see.
You don't have a camera, Mason?
No, for some reason, my team doesn't like the camera on my computer. I have yet to figure out
Really?
why.
But
Yeah.
it worked fine on the Proctorio. That's good. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see. I don't know why I'm lost. Stage
Because
fright.
these are hard. That's why you're lost. Does anybody want to give Mason a hint?
You could rewrite cosine squared of x as something else using the Pythagorean identities.
Who said
right.
that? That was a good, very good hint. I could learn you guys' name. That was Graham. Good job, Graham. Great hint.
So the cosine squared of x minus 1 is just sine.
Sine squared.
Sine squared
So we're
of
going to
x.
rewrite the cosine as 2 times what?
Sine squared of x.
1 minus sine squared of x, right?
Oh, right.
I still got my minus 1. Now what?
When you multiply the 2 into that,
Okay. So 2 times 1 is?
2
minus
sine squared of x.
2 sine squared of
Or 2
x.
sine squared of x. And then you still have the minus 1.
Minus 1.
So then that would be 1 minus 2 sine squared of x.
X. And 1 minus 2 sine squared of x equals. Okay.
Sweet. Yep.
Bing.
So
all right.
I was gonna say my issue was I was looking at the left-hand side, trying to figure out what I could do with the left-hand side, but so like how do you know what?
Well,
side
that's a good question. What can we do the same technique with the the left-hand side instead?
I don't know. Could we? I guess we could.
Probably could, right? We could rewrite sine squared of x as what?
1 minus cosine squared of x.
Okay, so I've got 1 minus 2 times 1 minus the cosine squared of x, right?
Right.
Okay. So what could we do then?
Wouldn't we have to do 1 minus 2, and then we could multiply that in?
1 minus 2 minus
Well, first you got to distribute the 2.
Yeah, we got to distribute the 2. So
Okay.
2 times 1 is 2.
Right.
So -2 times negative cosine is
-2 cosine squared of x.
positive
Oh, positive, yeah.
2
Right.
cosine squared. Okay. So therefore, what's 1 minus 2?
-1.
-1 plus 2 cosine. Oh, this is going to get mad at me. Squared of x. I need to put an apostrophe here. It's going to try to actually solve that. Now, can I flop the order there?
Right.
So if I flip the order, I'm going to get 2 cosine squared of x equals what's right here, right?
Right.
2 cosine squared of x minus 1.
Oh,
except
sweet.
for I forgot to put the -1 over here. -1. Okay. So yeah, you could have started with the left side.
Okay, cool.
Started with the right side. So it doesn't matter which side to do. we showed that the sines were equal, but you could also show the cosines are equal. That would be a perfectly legitimate way to do it.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. Well, you've all made me proud. Let's see if you can make me proud on the quiz tomorrow. Okay. So, looks like most everybody stayed here. How many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, we've only got 11 people here today. Where is everybody? They're all depressed about their exam, except for you guys. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you guys go then. Remember, being on camera gets you more points for attendance. And I'm going to update that right now so I don't forget. By the way, Nicole, was there anything else I needed to do besides update attendance? It seemed like you told me something else. Oh, there were 2 quizzes I haven't
There's the
updated.
quizzes, yeah.
I got to do that too. I'm going to do that before I write these this is going to be a very hard quiz. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
And also the question 2 on the exam that we just took.
Okay, so if you, so let me, as far as the exam goes, make sure that I didn't give you credit for that because it probably marked it wrong, but I gave you 5 points. So verify that. If you did not get 5 points on number 2 and you should have, send me an email on Canvas and I will fix that.
Okay.
Because I thought, and especially Texas, I could have sworn I got yours right, but maybe I didn't. I make mistakes, so. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. And I gotta write an awful quiz, and I'm gonna update everybody's attendance today. So.
Thank you.
See y'all tomorrow. Good luck on the quiz.
See ya.
And the homework. And if you want to stick around and meet, that's fine. But I'm gonna leave.
All right. And then for those who are left,